How's it going, my fellow snail sufferers? I hope you guys enjoyed this Top Gun themed intro. I definitely need to work on my cinematic shooting a little bit, but either way, here we are. Today we'll be discussing the backstory of the F-14 Tomcat and the future variants we should see in War Thunder, such as the F-14D, which remains the most modern variant of the Tomcat and the last iteration created. As always, sections of the video will be timestamped below. Let's get right into it. The F-14's development was directly influenced by the controversial Tactical Fighter Experimental Program, which aimed to create a single aircraft for both the Air Force and Navy. This ultimately resulted in the General Dynamics F-111 Aardvark. The naval version, being the F-111B, was a disaster. It was far too heavy, underpowered for carrier operations, and its maneuverability was deemed unacceptable for air combat. After a famously public showdown where Vice Admiral Tomcat Connolly testified against the F-111B, the program was ultimately cancelled in 1968. The Navy, now free to pursue its own design, turned to Grumman, the company with a legendary history of building robust carrier aircrafts like the F-6F Hellcat and the A-6 Intruder. The new project was designated VFX. Grumman's design team began work on what would become the F-14. It was a clean sheet design, but it incorporated one key piece of technology salvaged from the F-111B program: the Hughes, or now Raytheon, AN/AWG-9 radar and its associated Phoenix missile system. This radar was the heart of the Tomcat's mission, capable of tracking up to 24 targets and simultaneously engaging 6 with its AIM-54 Phoenix missiles. Other notable design features of the F-14 included its swing wing capability, allowing it to be fully swept back to a minimum of 20 degrees. This created a thin delta wing that minimized drag, allowing the Tomcat to reach speeds over Mach 2.3. This was absolutely crucial for intercepting Soviet bombers at range. But for low-speed flight, such as takeoffs, landings, and slower-speed combat, the wings could be swept forward to a maximum of 75 degrees. This created a large straight wing that generated incredible lift, allowing for slower, safer carrier landings and providing excellent turning ability in a dogfight. The F-14 also featured the ability to carry AIM-9 Sidewinders, AIM-7 Sparrows, and used an M61 Vulcan for its main gun. The Tomcat required 2 crew members, a pilot, and a Radar Intercept Officer, or RIO for short. The F-14 Tomcat was first added to War Thunder on June 15, 2022. This would bring one of the very first active radar homing missiles to the game, and the F-14 would prove worthy of its title, completely dominating the skies. It forced everybody to fly low.
He is smarter than you. He is luckier than you. Whatever you think's supposed to happen, I'm telling you, the exact reverse opposite of that is gonna happen, okay?
Jesse.
This thing was almost untouchable, mainly because the closest competitor in the game at the time was the MiG-23 MLD and MLA. Basically, nothing had enough range to fight the F-14. In terms of flight performance, this aircraft also had an edge. While its engines were significantly weaker in terms of acceleration, it still maintained an insane ability to dogfight almost anything in the game, with again, the closest competition being the MiG-23s or maybe the Mirage 2000C when it was added. The F-14 would prove to be a very powerful addition to the game. In June of 2023, we would receive the F-14B as part of the La Royale major update. This would come with a massive upgrade over the F-14A. This variant features the new General Electric F-110 engines, AIM-9L Sidewinders compared to the A's 9 inches, the AIM-7M Sparrow compared to the A's AIM-7F, and the AIM-54C Phoenix missiles. The biggest upgrade here were the AIM-9Ls and the engines. The F-14B would also receive a much needed ground attack capability upgrade, as well as additional guided bomb options. But the most important upgrades given were the engines and the chaff boost. While the F-14A struggled in subsonic speed ranges, leading to poor climb performance, the F-14B almost completely negated this issue with its new engines, allowing it to climb much quicker and get to the best altitudes possible for slinging its AIM-54s. It also came with more countermeasures. With a base flare count of 60, which would be split between chaff and flares, the F-14 would receive BLL pods, 2 on each 9L rack, giving an additional 160 on each side, bringing the total count to 380 between chaff and flare. But if you decided to sacrifice your inner 2 wing pylon radar missiles, you could carry 2 more pods, both with 160 as well, bringing the total to 700 between chaff and flare, which is just absolutely bonkers. Now, the most recent F-14 added to War Thunder was the F-14 Araf, an Iranian F-14 Tomcat. This jet features the Falkor 90, Sigils, and extra Iranian weaponry. It is an F-14A and is limited to the F-14A's capabilities. However, the Foghorns are not to be messed with. Those missiles are insane, as well as the Sigils. But there's one more Tomcat that is largely anticipated by myself and the War Thunder community, the F-14D. The F-14D was the final and most advanced production version of the Tomcat. It wasn't a simple upgrade, this was a comprehensive modernization that addressed the F-14A's key weaknesses and transformed the aircraft from a post-Cold War era. The D officially stood for Delta, but it's universally known as the Super Tomcat. The plan was to build the new F-14Ds and also remanufacture existing F-14A airframes to the D standard. A total of 37 new F-14Ds would be built, and 18 F-14As would be converted to D spec, bringing the total fleet to 55 Super Tomcats. The F-14D's first flight would be in 1990 and it achieved an initial operational capability in 1992. While the F-14D retained the F-14B's General Electric F-110 GE400 engines, meaning it would remain the same thrust-wise as the F-14B, the main upgrades would follow in its avionics. The most significant technological leap for the D would be its completely new radar system, which is a direct evolution of the AWG-9. It would receive the AN/APG-71 radar, which would be a completely digital radar replacing the old analog systems of the B and A variants. This greatly enhanced its ability to detect and track low-flying targets, was far more resistant to enemy jamming, and while the AWG-9 could track 24 targets and engage 6, the APG-71 did it more reliably and with better discrimination. It had a longer detection range and overall better processing power. This helped greatly with fighter aircraft, as the F-14 often struggled to maintain locks on targets who gained or lost altitude quickly due to its narrow vertical scan beam. The F-14D would now receive 2 MFDs that the pilot could now view, which showed the radar, flight, and navigation data digitally rather than the old-fashioned dials and gauges found on the B and A variants. The Rio received a whole new transformation. The cockpit was completely redesigned, the old radar scope and steam gauges were replaced by a suite of digital displays, including a large tactical information display and another MFD. The F-14D would also introduce a digital flight computer that made the aircraft easier to fly and overall more responsive, especially in high-angle attack maneuvers. In terms of weaponry, the F-14D would remain mostly the same for air-to-air munitions. Featuring the AIM-54s, it would receive the AIM-7P as a late-era weapon, and would also keep the AIM-9M that was featured on the F-14B. The F-14D would unfortunately retire in 2006, which was before the AIM-9X was fully operationally used or deployed. The F-14D would also feature the same AN/AAQ-14 Lantern targeting pod for precision strikes. Finally, the F-14D did not feature any helmet-mounted display elements, so all targeting must be done manually. This means that high off-board sight shots may be difficult, depending on the meta it would find itself in War Thunder, which could change how it's played. For the final section of this video, we're going to discuss whether the F-14D should receive A-120 AMRAAMs, which is a highly discussed topic within the War Thunder community. So, we all know the F-14D is said to be AMRAAM capable, as it was proposed for the Delta variant to include integration for them. It would see a total of 8 AMRAAMs mounted onto it if it were complete. However, this was just a proposal. The only F-14 to ever trial the AMRAAMs was an F-14A, and these trials occurred on September 23, 1981. However, the A-120 was never formally integrated or deployed on any F-14Ds. With that being said, I still believe Gaijin should put AMRAAMs on this beast when it gets added. I believe it should have the option between its AIM-54s and AMRAAMs, and I say that for 2 reasons. 1. The F-14's base AIM-54s are modeled beyond terribly since missile changes have been done, making them heavily lack in performance that they should have, but that's a whole separate video idea. And 2, it's the only way to make the F-14D truly different from the B model. Aside from the radar upgrades and the slight weapon changes, such as it receiving the AIM-7P, these aircrafts are almost identical. For those reasons, I believe the F-14D should receive its AMRAAMs. I also believe that the F-14B should receive its AIM-9Ms, and the F-14A should receive the AIM-9L, but that's also a separate topic. Either way, with that being said, I put a good bit of research into this video, and I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about the F-14D Tomcat. I know this is a long-awaited aircraft, and I truly do hope we see it in the game sometime soon. Make sure to let me know in the comment section whether this plane should receive AMRAAMs when it comes out, or if it should stick with its AIM-54s. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like and maybe even subscribe. Make sure you take a look at my member options, which I have recently opened up. They provide numerous perks to you, the viewer. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. This was our 60, and I'll see you all later. Peace.
And it goes a little something like